For most of human history, power wore armor. It marched on boots and conquered with swords, cannons, and tanks. Empires expanded by force, borders were redrawn by blood. And authority was visible in uniforms and flags, but today, something strange has happened. Nations fall without invasions. Governments obey without being conquered. Wars are won without a single soldier crossing a border, and almost no one notices. Power no longer needs armies. It needs currency. More precisely, it needs code. This is the story of how money stopped being metal, then paper, then promises, and became an invisible system of control more powerful than force. A system so deeply embedded in daily life that resisting it feels impossible. A system that doesn't threaten you, but quietly enrolls you. The real question is no longer who controls the armies, but who controls the code behind money. To understand how currency became code, we have to return to a time when money was real. For thousands of years, money existed as gold, silver, grain, or salt things, with physical value. Money mattered because it was something tangible. You could touch it, hide it, melt it, or steal it. Empires rose by controlling land and resources, and if you wanted power, you needed territory. If you wanted territory, you needed armies. Even early paper money was simply a receipt, a promise that real metal existed somewhere else. That promise mattered, because if rulers broke it, people could withdraw their gold, refuse taxes, and collapse the system. Money had limits, because reality had limits. The first crack appeared not through war, but through accounting. Banking began as a simple service. Store gold safely and issue receipts. But banks soon realized that most people never demanded their gold at the same time. So they began lending out more receipts than they had metal. This was the birth of fractional reserve banking. Money was no longer limited by gold, but by confidence. As long as people believed the receipts were real, the system survived. Currency had taken its first step away from reality and toward abstraction. For a time, gold standards restrained this system. Then war changed everything. Wars were expensive, and gold was slow. Governments suspended monetary rules temporarily to fund conflict. They printed money far beyond reserves, debt exploded, and inflation followed. But after wars ended, governments discovered something intoxicating. They could finance power without visibly taxing citizens. Debt became the solution to every problem. Central banks emerged as managers of money, presented as neutral institutions, but they became the gateway to endless borrowing. The final break came when money was completely detached from gold. From that moment on, currency was backed by nothing, physical only, law, trust, and enforcement. Money officially became code, numbers inside electronic ledgers with no natural limit. Once money became pure abstraction, power changed form. If you control money creation, you can fund allies instantly, collapse enemies silently, reward obedience, and punish resistance. No invasion is required. Sanctions replace sieges. Debt replaces occupation. Currency manipulation replaces bombs. Nations remain officially sovereign while economically trapped. Loans arrive with conditions. Conditions reshape policy. Policy reshapes society. Control appears voluntary, because governments sign agreements and markets react naturally. But the force is invisible, and therefore harder to resist. As this system matured, global debt stopped being temporary and became permanent. Governments rolled over old debt with new debt. Central banks printed money to stabilize crises that the system itself produced. Every rescue demanded more liquidity. Every crisis justified expansion. Crashes no longer threatened the system, they strengthened it. Wealth stopped coming primarily from labor and began flowing from proximity to money creation. Asset prices rose faster than wages. Productivity increased, but purchasing power stagnated. Those closest to the money source benefited first. Everyone else paid through inflation. No tanks, no declarations, just numbers changing quietly. Every generation senses something is wrong and proposes reforms. New regulations, transparency, debt limits, or monetary resets are promised, yet they always fail. The reason is simple. The system isn't broken. It is functioning exactly as designed. It rewards expansion and punishes restraint. Reducing debt crashes markets. Raising interest rates breaks governments. Ending money creation causes recessions. So policymakers choose the only option that delays consequences. More money, more digits, more abstraction. The system survives by deepening itself. Today, currency is no longer just digital. It is programmable. Transactions can be tracked, accounts frozen, and spending restricted. Entire populations can be excluded financially without force. This power doesn't require a dictatorship. It operates through compliance rules, risk scores, and automated systems. Algorithms decide access. Institutions enforce outcomes. The pattern repeats. Crisis, rescue, centralization, loss of autonomy. The more digital money becomes, the less resistance is possible, because you cannot rebel against a system you depend on to eat. History shows a repeating cycle. Money begins as a tool, becomes leverage, turns into control, justifies itself through crisis, and expands beyond reversal. Empires once needed legions. Now they need liquidity. Power no longer occupies land. It occupies balance sheets. The lessons are clear. Money is not neutral, it is a tool of governance. When currency becomes code, power becomes invisible and harder to resist. Systems built on permanent debt cannot stabilize. They can only expand or collapse. Every monetary system eventually reaches a limit. The real question is not whether this system will break, but how. And whether what replaces it restores human agency or completes the transformation of money into total control. Because once currency is fully programmable, obedience can be automated, and power will never need armies again. If you want to understand how money really shapes power, why history keeps repeating, and what comes next when systems reach their limits, stay connected. The most important battles of the future won't be fought on land. They'll be fought inside ledgers you never see.